Hey all you anime addicts, it's a new year, it's 2025, and it's new you. And maybe you have some New Year's resolutions. Maybe you want to exercise a bit more, maybe you want to watch a bit more anime, and hey, maybe you just want to be a nicer, kinder, more giving person in your life. Be a good human for once. Well, what if I told you that we here at Anime Addicts Anonymous Incorporated could make all of those dreams a reality in one fell swoop? Introducing the not quite new Anime Addicts bonus content. You can feel good by contributing and helping out this independent podcast with just a little bit of your hard-earned money every month, and in return we will give you loads and loads of bonus content to listen to while you're out going on walks, while you're hitting the gym, while you're out just moving and grooving, and it will make your anime addiction so much worse because, surprisingly, we talk about even more anime and stuff like our after parties and hentai episodes. And when you get sick of all that cartoon talk, you can listen to our Hobby Addicts episodes, where we talk about all the video games, movies, books, and other nonsense that we get up to keep you entertained. Honestly, between you and me, this is your best chance at being the best you, so I highly recommend it. And if not, no worries, and no judgment. We still love you, you still get the main episodes for free, and we hope you have a great day. Now let's talk about some anime.
何よ、アニメアディクツアノニマスのライブブロードキャストやってるって言ってるでしょ。聞きなさいよね。You are listening to the Anime Addicts Anonymous Podcast. Make your anime addiction worse at AAAPodcast.com. And now, here are your anime addicts.
Hello and welcome to episode 764 of the Anime Addicts Anonymous Podcast. My name is Mason and I've got with me two hosts who can bury me in the dirt because they are even further north than I. And for once I have to relinquish my claim as the most northernmost boy in the world. We have, hailing from a place norther than me, I guess, Emery. Lady Emery, the pit boss herself, here to lay a smackdown on lots of things. What are you going to lay a smackdown on today?
Well, it is finally not cold here, so I won't lay a smackdown on the weather, but I would love to lay a smackdown on whoever is just kicking up all of the viruses. I am recovering from my last cold, finally, so just in time for the podcast. But yeah, so I'll smack down germs, I guess?
Okay, yeah, we'll take Emery at work. We'll take it. And also, from even further north once again, because he's hopefully not a cold boy, we've got Andrew, back from his international, as in across the nation travels. How's it going?
Oh yeah, swooping in like five beasts coming in together. That is me, Andrew, back from the West Coast.
The Band-Aids
now I'm back on
together.
The East.
What are you going to lay a smackdown on today, besides this podcast from last week?
Let's just say that this booty is juicy, but the choices were not great. So let's come together and find out what anime we can berate.
Hey, that's not bad.
I like it.
Anyway, yeah, Andrew,
I am not a wordster. That is very much not my bag.
But I'm not a rapper. As Andrew indicated here on the podcast, we're going to try to make your anime addiction worse, and we're going to have a fun time doing it. We're going to do a main topic where we're looking at anime of the Zodiac, comparing different animals and their traits of the Chinese Zodiac to an equivalent anime, and we'll see what kerfuffle comes from that. You can also stick around where we do our winter 2025 impressions. We're on our third round of that. We will be giving you our thoughts on Toilet Bound Hanako-kun Season 2, The Red Ranger Becomes an Adventurer in Another World, Sakamoto Days, Flower and Asura, and this really long title about a rank party adventurer who leaves it to help his students. You get the idea. You know which one I'm talking about. But as always, most importantly, you head on over to AAAPodcast.com. In addition to leaving mailbags and supporting our bonus content and finding links to our Twitter, our TikTok, our Facebook, and most importantly, our Discord, a lot of most importantly's today, you can find a link to the 2024 AAA Oscars and vote for your favorite shows or least favorite of 2024. It's a grand old time. We're going to do the show sometime next month, so you have a little bit of time, but if you forget, you're going to be real sad, so you should go vote right now while you listen to us babble. Now, any other thoughts before we get through the housekeeping and get to the big news of the week? Oh, I think we're ready. The people. Let's do it.
おー、大ニュースです。It's time for big news of the week.
My big news of the week is that the Zombieland Saga movie is actually happening. You know, I had my doubts because this was revealed back in 2021. That's like 4,000 years ago, back when season 2 came out. And I was like, this is just going to go the way of, I'm sorry, Emery, I have to say it. Don't be sad. You can cover your ears if you want, but it won't help because you have headphones. I thought this was going to go the way of Yuri on Ice, where they just announce a movie. Hey, Mappa, we're going to make a movie. Everyone's excited for it. Everyone's like, yeah, I love this franchise. And then nothing. But they have confirmed, the staff of the anime film, that it will be coming out in 2025, titled Zombieland Saga Yume Ginga Paradise, or Dream Galactic Paradise. Now, who knows when this movie will actually come out in the West, but I'm excited. It's happening. And what are your guys' thoughts on it? Do we want more Zombieland Saga, and do we think a movie will be good?
I've seen one season of the show. It was eclectic, I guess is the best way I could put it. How many seasons have we gone so far?
2.
Okay. I don't know why it needs a movie.
I'm down for a movie. I loved both seasons, so I'm excited, but I know they say they have now a date, but Yuri on Ice has seriously given me pause and reservations whenever I hear a movie is rumbling and happening until it is in theaters. Then I'll believe it's actually happening. Then I'll accept it. Do we remember I thought Zombieland Saga was an original. So,
yeah, it definitely was.
Okay.
No, it might be a manga.
Yeah,
I think a manga came out adapting it, but I think it is original. Yeah, I think it's original.
Okay. I thought it was an original, so I'm curious to see where this movie will go, and if it's going to be canon, as we talked about, I think a month or so ago. So yeah, well, I'm excited. I'll see it eventually whenever it makes its way over to North America.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for it. I bet I would put my excitement at a 7 out of 10, but I guarantee you if I went back and rewatched the opening for season 2, I would be at a 10 out of 10. I think the show already looks good outside of a movie context, and with that extra budget and time, especially if it's been brewing for a couple of years, you know it'll slap. Even if it's not canon, you'll know it'll be a good time. So I'm personally very excited. I could definitely use this, and yeah, that's all there is to it. Emery, what do you got?
Yep, mine is a small news story. Slayer series gets new short story collection. I mentioned this to Otaku Cop, who has mentioned as well Slayers on the podcast. I think you talked with him, Mason, when it was just the two of you talking hockey and old anime. And yeah, this is another one that I'm kind of interested in, and I just had to mention it even for his sake. But for those who don't know, Slayers is a very old series. It was actually one of my first anime rentals way back in the day when I asked, what the heck is this VHS about? So we'll see. Does this mean that maybe Slayers is gonna get the reboot? I don't know. Possibly. It's been 21 years, 20 plus years.
Yeah.
So
part of me says this will not cause a reboot of Slayers. But considering remakes of 80s, 90s shows are very in vogue right now, like I said, the short stories probably won't, but I could definitely see Slayers like in my 2026, 2027 bingo card of being like, guess what's back on the menu, boys? Slayers. And it'd be fun. I think it would hold up pretty well.
I think so too. I'd be curious to see how they, like, if you did a reboot, if they would just zhuzh it up Kenshin style, or if they would Trigun it and redo a lot of story beats in a way. So, yeah, I just needed something really cozy to sink my teeth into after a bunch of chaotic news this week with planes crashing and things. I was like, oh, this is nice. Let's have some nice, happy news.
Yeah, that sounds good. Andrew, you seem like a Slayers boy.
Oh,
not
yeah,
just because you slay.
I do slay. Queen.
It is known.
I did. What was I gonna say? Yeah, so I didn't actually watch Slayers until college because a friend recommended it to me, essentially. And so I said, "Oh, my friend likes the show. Let me check out the show." So I watched all of Slayers. Then I watched Slayers Revolution, and then Evolution R, the continuations that came out like decades afterwards. And Slayers is the kind of show that it's a real fun fantasy series that very much timeless and of its time at the same time. And you kind of see that in the sequels series that they did to some extent. There's something that Slayers benefits from being in that cell animated style that doesn't translate as well, I think, to computer animation, I guess is the best way. So if I did see Slayers come back, I don't want to see a CG Slayers show. I think that actually takes away a lot of charm from it in this particular case. I think there's something about how the characters are designed that worked very well for the time that it came out in. And yeah, and like basically I'm glad it's getting more stuff. I'm actually curious why now, but hey, it's actually pretty cool that we're getting more Slayers. I'm not actually going to read it, but it's cool that more Slayers exists for the people who like it.
And for the people who like reading.
Yo,
yeah.
Nerds. Lame. Though I will say, while not trying to compare them, if Slayers can get 4 films, Zombieland Saga can have at least 1. Okay? Like, come on. There's room in the world for that. Anyway.
It was a different time back then.
Exactly. A different era, for sure.
It's true.
With that said, I think we should go on to this main podcast topic, which I think I'm excited for. I don't know if I'm excited for, but I think I am. Not as excited as Zombieland Saga, but Emery, as this was your gallant contribution, as someone who suggested that we do another Lunar New Year themed episode like a year ago, keep the theme going. What are we doing here today?
I am shocked you remembered that I recommended we do the dragon theme last time, but yeah. So this was actually, I can't take all the credit, right? This is a Raggedy Doctor suggestion.
Oh, no, cancel. Okay. Oh, really quick, let's come up with a new main topic. I don't want anything to do with that boy.
Okay, so the perspective of third world effects on Japanese historical media.
Okay. Back to the Zodiac. What do we got?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're just going to talk about the different animals in the Chinese Zodiac, and we're going to give anime recommendations out of them. I'm very curious to hear everyone's process on how they picked these various animes or anime movies, and I see in our notes that Mason deciding to withhold what his sign is for the Chinese Zodiac.
Okay, I made this table. I am the creator of all you see before me. And if I make the table and then you guys make edits after and I don't look at it until we do the podcast, I don't know. So I will put
tisk.
As a monkey, I will put in my symbol. And I will say that my approach to doing this was I put a link at the top of the first website that popped up when it said, what are the different traits of different Chinese Zodiac characteristics? As someone who is not deep in the weeds of whether it be Western or Eastern Zodiac type stuff. I'm not really familiar with all that kind of stuff. Like, if you asked me what I was as far as like a Virgo or a Leo, or like, I would have to look it up kind of thing. That's my level of knowledge of this kind of stuff. And I went to this website, which you can find in our show notes, and I read the couple sentence description of each of these types of people, animals, traits, and the first anime that popped into my head is what I put in. There was no deep consideration. There was no methodical list checking. It was just whatever popped in. Gut instinct is what I put down. So that was my method.
All right, I like it. I did a similar thing. I'm a little bit more into the zodiac, whether it's the lunar, so the Chinese zodiac, less so than say like the astrological one, but I feel like that really was something that popped off during my high school era of, oh, you're a Cancer with like a Leo rising. You know, that was very much in my era. So I'm better at that. So this was still fun. I used Google Gemini to come up with my list of both traits and then flaws for each sign. And I went through my Annie list and tried to find two very different anime that maybe fits under that category.
Oh, I'm just a dirty person who likes to do his homework at the last second. So I just went to Mason's link. I went to what it is, and then I said, I'm going to pick anime from my list that I want people to talk about. Also, making sure at some points, making sure to get in some anime that are not talked about as much. But for the most part, there's going to be a lot of, I think, popular stuff on the list as well. I usually tried to pick two. So I basically read the traits and I went, this is what this reminds me of this show. Maybe not the first. And then sometimes I would scroll down, and if I saw a show, I'm like, where does this show fit as I go through my anime list? So that's where a lot of it comes from. In terms of like my history with astrology, let's see. I also went through a brief-ish astrology phase, not to the level of rising, but I looked into, I just wanted to know what all my signs were, so I looked into numerology, I looked into the astrology, I looked into the Chinese zodiac, so this was, and then I would look at on websites and whatnot for my lucky numbers and my horoscope of the day, so that kind of thing, nothing too crazy. And then that was like a few months of my life, not my life, but a few months of things I would do. But I would take out books at the library on numerology for dummies and whatnot, so that kind of stuff. So I did that for a bit. I still kind of passively do numerology in my head just to like calculate things. It doesn't always work out for me because it's but I try to always be aware. I'm always counting up numbers in my head, and if they add up to certain numbers, I'm like, oh, this is not going to go well, and it usually doesn't. Like my first car, my license plate added up to the number 10, and even though my birthday is on the 10th, 10 is not a lucky number for me. So when I found out that my number added up to a 10, I asked if I could change it, and the guy said it was too late, and I was like, ugh. And guess what? That car got into an accident. So
oh no.
Oh no, sorry, I had to scrap that. No, sorry, the heating didn't work on that car, and I live in Canada, so that's a not up. That car didn't get into an accident. That car I had to scrap. But yeah, so just those kinds of things is all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, with that said, I propose that Andrew kicks us off, because that will make the first animal that falls on one of our respective months land in his court. Now, it will, of course, mess us up later, but that's a problem for the future.
I think we can just say you get to do the month, the animal that is your year, because it's years. So yeah, I'm Andrew, and I'm a rabbit, and more specifically, I'm a fire rabbit, because not only does the Chinese zodiac deal with the animals, it also cycles through the 4 elements, I think.
I didn't even know that was an option.
Five, I thought. Is it
5 elements? Sorry.
I thought 5,
yeah, it's the 4 elements plus metal. Yeah, 4 elements plus metal, right? Earth, wind, fire, water, and metal. I'm a fire rabbit, if I remember correctly. I remember looking that up ages ago. But yeah, so it cycles through those as well. And so the first one is the rat in the Chinese zodiac. And did I say rabbit? I'm a rabbit / hare.
Yeah, he said that.
Yeah, because going just to go off of Mason's link that is also in the show notes as he mentioned. So rats are known for their charm, quick wit, and are intelligent, resourceful, and highly adaptable. They have a knack for turning situations to their advantage, and are excellent problem solvers, making them great both in social and professional settings. And honestly, that immediately just yelled out to me Lupin the Third. Like it is, and sometimes he kind of does look like a rat too. So, or at least one of them does. Zenigata, I don't know. But it really feels like that was like honestly one of the ones that just jumped out to me. I'm like, and I say I didn't pick any specific Lupin the Third. It just is the Lupin the Third franchise. Also, when I was looking at it, I also on my page was Lupin the Third, the woman named Fujiko Mine. And even that said, yeah, it's just any Lupin series feels like describes this that character, and because that character is sort of like the main character and how that show kind of operates. But you also see it in Mine Fujiko, the whole series, right? She's a very similar type of character, and the show itself is always sort of playing in that world where it's kind of it's very charming. It may not always be quick-witted, it may be a little bit prop humory kind of sometimes, but it feels like a very fun show that always seems to be making the most of what is given to it, and has almost like as a series evolved over time, where I think even like in part 4 he does some crazy stuff with like social media and like how he turns that to his advantage and stuff like that. So Lupin just feels like a very good like rat anime for me.
Yeah, I can dig it. I guess to kind of similarly go with your show that is in parts, the first show that popped into my mind is JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, a show that definitely does not need any more people talking about it, but definitely fits in the similar Lupin thing of a character gets into trouble, hot water, some weird situation that they need to get out of with something crazy or bizarre, or using their intelligence or something like it. And JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, particularly part 2, scratches that itch immensely with just, I think, Joseph being a bit of a charmer and really smart in some ways. So that was my pick for that one.
Both very good picks. I also embodied some of the flaws. So flaws of the Year of the Rat are they can be too cunning and manipulative. And so with all of that said, I did Made in Abyss for your first recommendation. And if you wanted something I think that's pretty radically different, Paprika the movie. These deal with very intelligent plot designs in my mind, intelligent people who are trying to be resourceful and ambitious. But especially for those who know Made in Abyss, there's darker elements there. And for those who know Paprika, what even is going on? It's a very, very unique experience. And that's why I think give those two a shot if you are born in the Year of the Rat.
Yeah, I feel like seeing your description or explanation for why you picked the shows. Some of these shows I picked because, like Andrew's Lupin, like the characters in the show embody a strong element of this animal trait. Whereas some shows I picked because people in the real world who might be of that character trait might enjoy this show. So I didn't solely base it on that. Like I said, it was all gut instinct. But Emery, what is the next animal to go through?
Yeah, it is the Year of the Ox. The ox is somebody who is hardworking, dependable, patient, but their flaw can be that they can be stubborn and inflexible. For my two anime that I'm serving up, I have Vinland Saga. I feel like nothing more needs to be said. You have some people and characters in there that are hardworking, dependable, and very patient, especially some of the elements that happen in season 2. But there's a lot of elements of religion in there, so there is definitely some stubbornness and inflexibility in there. My second offering is Laid Back Camp. Again, you have hardworking and dependable people in there, and there's some personalities that tend to be stubborn and want to do things on their own, But if you're looking for a cozy show, I'd say to give that a shot. If you need something with a little more action or depth to it, Vinland Saga.
For me, methodical, determined, patient is definitely the skill set I see in the Ox. And despite its name, the show I'm going to pick for this is Dragon Ball, because I can't think of a show that requires more patience and methodical watching to sit through that with all the episodes of nothing happening for many episodes. And of course there is payoffs and stuff, but you need that perseverance to get you to the success. So if you're an Ox, you might try out Dragon Ball and enjoy it, is what I'm trying to say.
All right, so similar thing. So here, I picked. So these are the two shows that I don't think get talked about very much at all in the grand scheme of things. I know at least one of them I think was reviewed on the podcast, if not, if anything. So the first show I'm going to mention in this regard, is Gao Gaigar, and it is a mecha anime from the 90s, from essentially born out of not exactly the Transformers, but that sort of Transformer style characters. And it's essentially why I picked this one is because the characters are just very hard, like very determined, have like a strong ethic. They are very inflexible in how they go about it. Why they may be flexible in how they solve the problems, they're very inflexible with their methods. And essentially they will power through with courage as much as possible. And I think that, and it's sort of like the saccharine part of the show that makes it very fun and very much embodies an Ox. And the other one is Samurai Flamenco, which starts off almost similarly about someone who's almost inflexible about their desire to do justice, and it going from taking a really realistic take to jumping it up to this fantastical take. And at the same point, the character feels like he is sort of stubborn about how he's always going to be for justice. And so I think these are pretty good representatives of the Ox in that regard.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, some good shows there across the board. I don't have any comments. You guys both understood the assignment. Next up, Tiger. Tigers are dynamic thrill seekers, courageous, competitive, and natural leaders. They love to take risks and are always up for a challenge. Sometimes they can be impulsive and need to watch their temper. And for the Tigers out there, I picked a show that will also be high energy, but challenging in some ways. It's a bit of a risk. You never know what you're going to get with this show, but it's a wild ride. And that is the comedy Asobi Asobase, which is just, it's everything. It's a lot to take in, but you're up for it, the challenge, aren't you? And it's a really funny show. It's crazy. It's wild. It's good time. You never know what you're going to get. And it's one of my favorites. So you should check it out if you're a wild child.
Nice. I picked... Oh, you want to go, Andrew?
Oh, I don't know if you want to go. Go ahead. You go.
I'll be quick. My two picks are Mob Psycho 100 and Land of the Lustrous for very different reasons. Mob Psycho, I think that you can see some of the impulsive and recklessness in certain characters, but I think there's just a lot of passion and fun there, and so just enjoy the heat and the fire of it. But Land of the Lustrous, I feel your main character likely was born in the year of the tiger. They just embody that, the courage, the desire to be like confident, passionate, but very impulsive, very reckless, as you see throughout the series. So yeah. Now go for it, Andrew.
Oh, honestly, I just want to say Hoseki no Kuni. I was trying to figure out a place for it because I don't think that show gets talked about enough, and I haven't watched it in ages, but I think that's actually a really good place for it. So
I thought the opposite.
awesome.
I don't know if I feel it for Tigers.
Really?
Yeah. Like it's about finding your place. It's really not about leadership, and kind of, it doesn't feel like a leadership kind of show. It doesn't feel like a thrill seeker. It's kind of slow. It's kind of strange. It's definitely weird.
You're talking about the show vibe.
The show vibes doesn't strike me as it. I don't know.
Interesting.
Interest.
I picked Chihayafuru because I think one of the things that's in the link that Mason put is tigers. Their passion and enthusiasm is infectious, and that describes the character Chihaya, and it sort of describes the show in a lot of ways as well. I will tell you, when I heard my friend BCom, friend of the podcast BCom, talking about this show with the amount of fervor and passion that he talks about this show, I was like, okay, buddy, okay. And then I watched it, and I don't know, I just got wrapped in. I binged all 3 seasons. Like, it pulled me in, sort of like what tigers do, and for the most part. And yeah, I feel like that show just really embodies like the vibe, the character, the main character, who is like your main throughput for a lot of the story, fits a tiger aesthetic. Then I picked Macross. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to ask Mason if it passed his vibe check as
Oh,
well.
wow. Well, sorry. I'm not the. Clearly, you two thought Land of Lustrous was good. I'm in the minority. I'm wrong here. But no,
Wait, you
I
don't
would
like
agree.
the show?
No, I love Land of Lustrous. It just
Okay,
doesn't
I
strike
was
me as
gonna
a
say.
tiger show. But yeah, if I'm the judge here, yeah, I'll say Chihaya is definitely a tiger show for sure.
I agree. I think it's a good tiger show.
Okay, good. We're passing judgment now. Is how it's working. We're all gonna.
It's really funny because Mason's camera froze.
Oh no! I'm all sassy over here. I'll fix that. Here we go, fixing the camera.
Sorry, sorry, that really took me out of it for a second. The other one is Macross, and that one's more from a meta analysis of the show and a meta perspective of the show. Macross is sort of I'm almost counter to Gundam at the time. It is a show that kind of draws you in with the music in a lot of ways, and it's very infectious in that regard. It sort of goes off the beaten path. It's basically well known for the Itani Circus, which referenced in a lot of different other media, or as people call it, the Macross missile spam,
or as people call it, Zenshu episode 2.
Yeah, the best. I think it's a fairly dynamic show for the most part. The way it's like a transforming mecha, which is pretty cool. And that, I think, inspired a bunch of Gundam stuff after that. It's very much Tiger in vibes, but mostly from a meta-analysis of what the show has sort of done for the mecha genre as well. That people kind of try to go along with it and pull along in a lot of ways. And the guy comes back like once a decade to say, I'm going to make a new one, except for this last decade. But, you know, he kind of does that, and you kind of got to go,
We're due for it.
Do it.
We're due for it.
We are so overdue for a Macross show.
Yeah, it'll happen. Yeah. Awesome.
Now back to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I get to snake it. Double go. So, rabbits. Rabbits are me, and if you read the rabbit, it does not make sense for me. Maybe I was born under a different star.
Fire rabbit.
Rabbits are gentle and kind-hearted. They're known for their grace and sensitivity.
Yeah, no, that ain't you.
That is totally... Actually, it is pretty much me. It's kind of annoying. Oh, I put on this tough exterior to hide it all. Compassionate, make great friends, obviously. And always ready to lend an ear. That's a problem I have. Which can make me overly cautious. Well, if you saw what I packed for my trip to Vancouver, which I'll be talking about in the after party, yeah, you'll understand that it's very much me. And so I picked the show Yuri on Ice for this one, because what show embodies
such
kindness, gentleness, shy, which leads to being overly cautious, shy, and timid, being open. Like, think the show not only on a meta level opened up a lot of people, it was not even like quote unquote woke or progressive, and it didn't even give us an actual kiss, but obviously they did kiss. If you don't think they kissed, you are very wrong, period. Like, the animation, there is no way that is anything but them kissing. Anyway, that's not the point of what I'm here for. But Yuri on Ice, I think, embodies a lot of like the vibe level, the characters level, the meta level. Just feels very much like a rabbit show. Like it's like it lent you its ear, and the music was really great. It's artistic. It's everything. And then I also picked Free because you got a lot. Free also sort of embodies that, but it's also a lot more fruity.
It's Yuri on Ice, but the ice melted. That's
Yes.
it. No,
Nice.
obviously Yuri on Ice, probably the most perfect pick for this. Like I think we could end it here, but I still want to hear, Emery, what do you got?
I'm gonna try, but man, that was such a
hard to
good pick.
follow up.
I'm
Yeah.
so mad I didn't think of that.
It honestly was so obvious to me. I couldn't.
I'm just naturally gifted at this. Oh, pardon me.
Obviously.
Well, he's a
rabbit. He knows.
Rabbit,
he knows what
so
he's
he
doing.
knows.
Yeah, that's
He
fair.
knows. I picked Odd Taxi for one of mine because I feel the main character, especially in Odd Taxi, fits under a lot of those elements, being gentle, kind, but shy and timid. And then my other one was Bang Dream, It's My Go. Again, this one was more of a character study, I guess, in seeing who fit under the Year of the Rabbit for that. Less on I mean, maybe there are some vibes and elements of it, but again, I got to give it to Yuri on Ice. Like, if you need a show, go watch Yuri on Ice. Like,
No,
I'm still
honestly,
so impressed.
Odd Taxi is a really good pick as well. I think. I think if I didn't know you already had put it there, I probably would have put it as my second instead of Free.
Here you go. He's a cheater. He looked at our list and one-upped us.
Obviously, I didn't want to duplicate if possible.
My pick is Natsume's Book of Friends. Definitely going with the general mood of gentleness, kind-hearted. It's just a nice, relaxing show. Looks good, so it's artistic if you like that, but not quite the same as some of the other shows here. So it's really good. It's relaxing. If you like Mushishi and want something a little more just easy, you want to see a big old fluffy cat, watch Natsume's Book of Friends. You'll have a great time. Next up, we have The Dragon. I think, Emery, it's your turn. Lay it on us.
Oh, all right. So Dragon is charismatic, powerful, independent. Some flaws. It can be arrogant and demanding. For that, my two shows are Dun 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 and Welcome to the Ballroom for different reasons. I feel like Dun 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 embodies like just being powerful, and yes, like you could even argue with some of the story elements that it's pretty demanding, not just of your attention, but just of some of the zaniness of it, along with a lot of the characters fit under those elements. I just feel like if you're Year of the Dragon, you're going to enjoy that. And if you're not into the shonen elements, try Welcome to the Ballroom. It's, again, very powerful, I feel. It is looking at the art of ballroom dancing and the people who are going to get in it. Our main character isn't necessarily fall under the dragon, but there are plenty of other people who do, and just navigating that world. So those are my two picks. Who's next?
I can go next. Sorry, I was just reading the chat of stuff that I was missing because I realized I didn't have it up. Dragons, power, ambition. They're just intense at times, and I had to go with Legend of the Galactic Heroes. You got two main characters, two main leads who are competing and are equals and opposites in so many different ways, but they're definitely different approaches to leadership and power. And I know we touched on that word earlier, but this is on such a different scale. This is such an epic adventure across the board that you kind of have to have that ambition to commandeer a galaxy, a universe. So Legend of the Galactic Heroes, it's big, it's bold, it's hard to resist.
And my basic bitch answer is Dragon Ball Z.
Wow, I already said that for Ox. Find a new gig.
Actually,
But you're not
on a
wrong.
side note, I do think it's actually interesting that there are some duplicates in our lists here, but they're in different places. So I kind of always find that interesting. But like, let's be honest, Dragon Ball Z is basically the obvious basic bitch answer for this, right?
Yeah, well, so it's funny when I was looking up the animals on Wikipedia, they actually talk about the trines and how really these animals are grouped into like sets of three, where you have three that are like more leadership, power, that kind of thing. You have three that are more like docile, relaxing, calming. Like, so it's very easy to look at that and be like, okay, 3 slice of life, 3 action shows. But really, that's why I reverted to using this other link to try to get some more disparity. But yes, there's a lot of, overlap across the board. So not surprised to see Dragon Ball and Dragon. Why not? Next up, we have Snake. Now, according to this, snakes are known for their wisdom and intuition. Deep thinkers who are calm and collected, strategic, and they plan their moves and have a mysterious aura. But, that's part of their allure. So, my first show that came to my mind is Rakugo Shinju. It's both the characters in the show, most of them, and people in real life who might like the show. It's such a unique, mysterious show in a lot of ways, with these veiled performances of the characters' emotions while being really insightful and just artful at the same time, that require you to, put a lot of things together. It's a masterpiece. I don't think anyone who has seen the show on this podcast has ever been like, yeah, this is a must watch across the board, because it's spectacular and you should watch it if you are a snake. And that's all I got to say about it, because you already know about it, because you've already watched it, because you paused this show if you haven't already, because you should watch. Okay, moving on. What do you got? Let's go to Andrew, because I want Emery to take the next one.
Well,
actually, no. So Emery should go next. So go, Emery.
Yeah. Go. Yeah. Unless you want to do the snake thing that I did, where
Oh,
you
man.
finish.
No, we're on Snake. We're not doing Snake.
Yeah. So my two, which is interesting because we have another repeat here, is I would offer Freyrin, because you have wise, intuitive, perceptive, both in characters and just in what it's asking the question of. But if that's not your speed, Natsume Book of Friends. Because again, it's got enough elements in there to be intuitive and perceptive, but you have some untrustworthy characters or elements there that, that kind of turn the stories or like spin it on its head a bit. So those are my two, but the big one I think for Snake is Freyrin for me. I think that one is worthy of anyone's time, very similar to Rakugo Shinju. Just go watch it. Even if you're not maybe captivated by certain elements of it, I do truly think this is an anime worthy of your time and attention.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I just, in my head, you're like, wise, intuitive, perceptive. And just like the image of Freyrin like being trapped in the mimic chest with her butt sticking out is like slowly like coming into focus on the screen. Like, yes, it's all coming together.
Floats in, her holding a potion, just shaking it up and down.
Yeah.
She has her flawed moments.
She's not always the snake that she was born to be, but she tries her best. And
exactly.
No, good picks. Interesting seeing Natsume down here, but you're not wrong. You ain't wrong.
So I picked Spiral. This is an old. So I figured for Snake, this felt like a really good place for a mystery show in general. Like that just feels like the vibe in general. So I picked Spiral. It sort of hits a lot of those vibes. But you could also do things like Ungo or Millionaire Detective or really a lot of the mystery shows fit into that. Maybe not Detective Conan because that's a little bit more child focused, even with all the murder. So I chose Spiral because it's one that I don't think many people know about. It sort of is about this prodigy genius piano player who gets involved with this entity called this group called the Blade Children, and he essentially also is like a genius detective, and his brother was a genius detective who went missing, and he lives with his sister-in-law who takes care of him, but he also has a huge crush on his sister-in-law. So yeah, it's pretty crazy, but he goes around solving mysteries, and there's a whole like the mystery of the Blade Children and everything like that. And I think it's just like it fits into the whole, he's kind of wise, intuitive, and perceptive, a bit secretive, and then sort of dealing with all of these like murderous people in his life as well. Kind of makes it a little crazy, but like the real like vibe answer is Death Parade for me. It fits, like it's a show that's all about intuition, wisdom. What do you learn, especially because it's like in the the place, I guess the afterlife, but the place between life and death in sort of some ways. And But it's also like it's full of secrets. You don't learn everything even by the end of it to some extent, right? The main character, like the point of view character that you come in with, is trying to figure all of this out and learn, and it's just like the show on a vibes level just feels very much like a snake in the good way that it is.
Yeah, I can see it. Good picks all around. Moving on. Take the reins.
Aha, I see what you did there. I see what you did there. It's funny, because I'm a year of the horse. Woo woo. I'm also a fire horse. So
How do I know what I am? How do I
just
do that?
you have your
Do I have to look
specific
it up?
year. Yeah,
Yeah.
your specific
I'll
year.
look it
for
up.
that.
I'll see what I am.
Okay. For horses, we are energetic and optimistic, freedom loving, but we can be pretty restless and irresponsible. So the two I picked were Flip Flappers and Cyberpunk Edge Runners, which are both two shows that I happen to love. And I understand, especially with Flip Flappers, that is a very niche show. But I really think if you are Year of the Horse, just maybe give it a shot. It's zany and crazy, but it's all about, I feel like, finding your way and the freedom of being just a kid growing up in essence. There's a lot of elements of shonen in there as well, but again, then I switch over to Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and I feel that that freedom loving especially is in there, and the optimism for a brighter future. But the show itself, I mean, you could say it's a trigger show, so maybe you could argue it's irresponsible in some of the storytelling elements because it gets a little too zany from time to time, but I love both of them, so hopefully my fellow horse friends will also like them.
Stick together, yeah.
Yes.
I think everything was explained when you said it's a trigger show.
It's good though.
For setting your
solid picks.
expectations. But yeah, indeed, agreed. I can go next.
Yeah.
I picked The Great Pretender. It's a show about con men conning people across the world, and the joy and freedom that comes from that, I guess. So what show kind of embodies just like the jet setting life out there and conning people in the fun, like it just feels, like it's a terrible thing to do, but if you're conning the bad people, then it's the best of both worlds, right? You can do something bad, but to a bad person doesn't make it good, but it means that bad person may have deserved it. So yeah, no, I went with Great Pretender because it was just like, it's fun. It kind of tries to do a lot of things, and it sort of embodies that like freedom loving, energetic, optimistic kind of aspect of the vibes.
Mm-hmm. I'm just stunned that Emery did not put One Piece for this one, though I know she has it later in the list, so maybe she has a better reason for it. So I will
Spoilers.
hold back my judgment. But no, all good picks. I went with Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken. It's fun, life of the party. It's more about creative freedoms, and just it's a good time. If you know, you know, and you should watch it, especially if you like anime, because it's about making anime. So I love that meta. Andrew, I'll let you take this next one so I can do the monkey.
Yes. I don't know how to make a good sound.
That was bad.
I guess you should Billy club me over the head.
It's just gonna cringe inward.
Yeah. That's what happens when Tony's supposed to be on
sorry.
this episode and we're drastically deficient in
Sillier.
puns. Yeah.
True. This is we have to fill in for Tony here. That's why we have to do this. Otherwise, he would be pumping them out like,
Exactly.
I got
We don't
no
have
good.
three
I got no good
workhorses,
comment. What can I
so
say?
Whatever. Yeah.
Goats. So the goat are gentle, empathetic, kind, and caring, and often putting their needs before their own. They have a strong artistic side and appreciate the finer things in life. And for some reason, I did the opposite, and I picked Mobile Suit Gundam 0079 because I had to put a Gundam show on here to keep up my Gundam slash mecha supremacy. But it also reminds me a lot of the main character because he ends up doing a lot of the things he doesn't want to do for the benefit of others. And even though he's kind of whiny about it at times, a good slap to the face basically woke him up and made him a better person. But he's also, it's not that, but he was also sort of creative in a sense that he was very like creative with the machines he was doing. And also, if you look at Gundam as a metaphor for what it did for mecha anime, it's very much not this, because Yoshiyuki Tomino was quite the asshole at this time of in his career. He later becomes goaty with a lot of the other Gundam stuff he does, but you know, I just put it in here because honestly I didn't have anything better. You see, I'm capable of failure too, guys, you see. And the other one I put in was Carol and Chuse, which actually really much more embodies this goat energy, the creative, the artistic, compassionate, but they also, there's like a lot of like parts where they do get pessimistic and kind of self-pitying and, you know, sort of like wondering what they're doing. And it's also a really like it's a show that I don't feel like we talk about a lot anymore, but it was actually a lot better than I think people also sort of gave it credit for it in the long run. Minus that ending sequence was kind of stupid, and it kind of was set up for like, if they kind of like set you up for like a much larger expectation for it only to be what it was. Okay, sure, I get it. But overall, I think like it's a really solid show. The music's really good, and I think it's a fun commentary on the music industry through a meta sci-fi analysis lens.
There you go. Oh, my turn. Goat. I have been picking a lot of very well-known, common, mainstream anime for a lot of my picks, but I had to put in one Mason curveball of show that no one has ever seen for the most part, or maybe not heard of unless you've heard me talk about it on this podcast before. And I picked this because it's one of the GOATs, as in greatest of all time anime, because it's amazing, extremely gentle, extremely empathetic, just so peaceful and relaxing, and just it's so majestic. And that is Windy Tales, which is a very odd looking show, but it's just oh my goodness, it's like being wrapped in the most velvety of cotton. It's so relaxing, it's so amazing, and it makes you just, your worries dissipate. And I highly recommend you check it out if you need some kind of comfort in a show like that. So that's the show, Windy Tales. Not tales as in like goat tales, but like tales as in stories, if you want to look it up. Sorry.
Solid picks, solid puns. Still, so many puns today. For my two shows, the first one I picked was Liz and the Bluebird, because you have creative, artistic personalities. You have a lot of pessimism and self-pity, especially amongst the main character, who is just trying to find her way with her oboe playing. As a fellow oboe player, I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's self-contained enough where you don't necessarily need to see sound euphonium. It's a nice to have, but I think the movie does a great job of being welcoming to anyone jumping in. My other one, which is quite the opposite, is Evangelion, because I like to think about was Shinji being pessimistic and self-pitying as the plot. It's also probably a goat anime where it's like, it's one of the tops. Like, if you haven't seen this yet, I don't know. Are you living under a rock? Probably. It took me until like listening to Mason saying it enough to go watch the dang show, but it's a good time.
Oh my goodness, I just can't believe that someone actually listened to me for once. I'm sure all my like waxing on about something is just like, I have more incentive than ever to not watch a show, but I'll take it. So,
yeah, got to take the compliment every so often.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Yeah, so two very different shows. I cannot reiterate this enough, but feel it fits for the goat.
Do it for the goats.
We did the same thing, a music show and a mecha show.
We did.
Crazy how nature do that.
Friendship.
We have 4 left. The next being Monkey, which is once again my animal of choice. I guess not by choice, but you know how it would be. Monkeys are clever and curious. They're playful and mischievous, but their playful nature can sometimes be seen as a lack of serious, but it's all part of their charm. I kind of struggled with this one for a bit, but I think I'm going to land on Gintama as my pick. It is clever, it's very funny, it's very silly, but it has its serious moments that kind of are masked by that playful nature. And I think you're in for a wild ride. It's exciting at times. New stuff keeps on happening. You meet a whole bunch of characters, and they keep on coming back, which is something really impressive, especially in a long-running show. And I'm sticking to it. Gintama, Monkey. Who's next? I already lost track.
I haven't been keeping track. I'll just go next. I'll just throw a monkey wrench in this. My two picks were, this is where One Piece goes. This is where it goes. It's Monkey D. Luffy. Why wouldn't I put it here?
Oh my goodness.
It's the obvious. If we're talking based picks, this is, if I didn't put this here, it would have been Dragon Ball here. Like, that's how based we're getting with this pick.
Interesting that Dragon Ball could have. I know
I would disagree with that.
But yeah, exactly. It pops up in 3 different locations.
But I'm thinking intelligent. I mean, okay, Luffy, adaptive and playful. But I really think that One Piece fits under this element because it is a very playful manga. It also can be mischievous and manipulative at times. It manipulates my emotions in shocking ways when I'm not ready for it. Similarly, if you're not feeling One Piece, you don't want to dive into 1,000+ episodes or see the live action or see the reboot, fine. Try Bakemonogatari. It was a anime I did not think I was going to like. I thought I would hate it. It is surprisingly delightful, even for its very, very fast verbal onslaught. It's very playful. It's definitely manipulative, especially with some of the storytelling where you think it's going to go one way and it subverts you and takes you another way. I think this is another good fit for Year of the Monkey.
I'll accept it only because I like that show, so we'll take it.
I agree with One Piece. If you're not looking, I think the show as a whole actually fits, like you said, the vibe of the monkey for sure. Maybe not Monkey D. Luffy himself, and maybe not a lot of the characters themselves, but the show itself is smart, adaptive, playful, mischievous.
I feel like Monkey D. Luffy definitely is monkey-like.
Yeah, he's definitely monkey-like, but I would like I said, I disagree on the Dragon Ball going here because I don't think.
Oh, fair.
I don't know if the show fits any of those qualities. I love it, but Anyway, I picked Slayers. I think here Slayers is a good pick for here. I did this because it came up in the chat, and I wanted to give some Slayers love as well. Outside of No, I just want to give some Slayers love as well. There was no outside of I just like to talk sometimes and just things come out of my mouth. Slayers, I think, fits a lot of the elements. It's a smart show. It's very silly. It's very playful. A lot of, one of my favorite characters is essentially the playful imp Zelos. He's, his catchphrase is "That's a secret," which I always preferred hearing in the Japanese dub, even though I only watched I think the English dub for the most part. But I definitely loved hearing Zelos in Japanese, that's for sure. Because he says it so much more playfully and so much more, more playfully in that one. So I think that one was a good show. People just go watch Slayer season 1. It's like 13 episodes, I think. Just do it. It's worth it. Even the animation's really good too. Like, just do it. Anyway. And then the other one I feel like also just really fit the monkey one very much. It's Trigun. And the way I thought this is because when I thought of that, I literally think about the first episode of the anime a lot. And that whole sequence where he's obviously adapting to the situation. He's being very playful in how he takes on all these people, but he's also being sort of mischievous and sort of manipulating the situation. And then you sort of like really learn about how actually intelligent he is as the show goes on as well. Like a lot of what he's doing actually deliberately, and that it's as much of it is an act as it is. But it's still a very playful show, and he still tries to do everything with peace and love. So yeah, no, I think Trigun really fit into the monkey category here as well, with a lot of the traits that were described by Lady Emery.
Yeah, Bash is a phenomenal pick, and I would have put him here if A, I was smarter, and B, I hadn't put it elsewhere. But no, definitely solid, solid, solid. Emery, you can take this next animal.
All right. Year of the Rooster. Roosters are honest, hardworking, responsible, but their flaws, they can be critical and judgmental. So my two picks for this were One Punch Man. You have Saitama, who is hardworking, responsible, but absolutely is critical and very judgmental. One of my favorite, all-time favorite, is just characters giving their backstories, and he just yells, 30 words or less, and that is how I try and live my life, is can I try and smush this into 40 words or less. My other one is Skip and Loafer. That one, you could go either way. I just wanted something very different from the shonen element, but I feel you do have really honest and hardworking characters in that it is a very responsible anime, and that it is very true to the manga. At the same time, a lot of the characters can be critical and judgmental, not just of themselves, but of the people around them. And it's fun to see how those different elements play off the different characters and their relationships.
I really like the Skip and Loafer call here. And, some of the characters aren't quite as confident as other roosters might be, but like you mentioned, the self-critical assessment is always really close to home. So I think, yeah, solid pick for sure. I can go next. I picked Sound Euphonium. Not Liz and the Bluebird that Emery mentioned for Goat, but when I think of meticulous, straightforward, honest people speaking their minds in a way that can come across as arrogant, there's quite a few characters in that show that strike that match for me. So Sound Euphonium, striving for perfection. Show comes pretty close. Could use some more kissing, but besides that, it's a good time.
I feel like this animal could be called the Kyo Annie animal.
Yeah.
I agree. So I went soccer, like soccer anime was what I thought of when I saw Rooster, honestly. So I picked my favorite soccer anime, and I picked the obvious soccer anime. So the obvious one being Captain Tsubasa, right? That's very much a character who's basically honest, hardworking, responsible. A lot of the characters in that are critical. He's a little bit more whatnot, but like you can also look at it as like sort of like critical thinking to some extent, and like he has an innate love of soccer. But I feel like a lot of soccer anime fit into this. A lot of the characters in soccer anime are hardworking. They're very they feel like responsibility to the team. They can get very judgmental and critical, but like the one I loved and one of the ones I fell in love with in college was Whistle. I started reading a manga and I started watching the anime around college because I think it wasn't that old at the time. I think, but the manga was coming out when I was in college, as in North America when Shonen Jump was releasing the manga volumes. And it is about this kid who basically is not that good at soccer, but wants to play soccer. And so he does as much possible to try and get his chance to play soccer. And eventually somebody gives him the opportunity, realizing his potential and seeing how hard he works, and uses that to motivate the team, the soccer team. And you see them go play soccer, and they essentially in the first, like their first test is against the best soccer school. And when I tell you that like we're talking Naruto missed Zabuza arc here, right? Like levels of invested into the characters I was for so early into the process that we were in. And it's why I always remember the show, and it's hard to find anywhere because obviously it wasn't popular when it came out. But yeah, no, Whistle is definitely. I think it's on the Shonen Jump app for the manga, so definitely check it out if you have a chance. It's a really good story, and I think it embodies a lot of these characteristics.
There we go.
And and then the dog. Wait,
Yeah, we'll do the dog, and we'll finish these up 10 words or less. Maybe not that quickly, but
oh, I can finish up oh, these are easy. So the dog is loyal, trustworthy, high sense of justice, willingness to help others. They make excellent friends and partners, and they have a strong moral compass that can make them overly critical. And I picked 2 gun shows for this. The first being Gungrave, which is about a very loyal mafia guy who ends up getting betrayed and whatnot, and like that whole story of how that happened. And that's Gungrave. And then this one's also a bit of a mean Grenadier. If you have probably seen Grenadier in some way, shape, or form, if you've existed in anime in like the last 20 years. This is the show where the girl reloads her bullets by using her boobies. And the ammo comes from her boobies, and she like spins around and loads her ammo. But it's actually a really interesting story about like the price of a life, which is not what I expected when I watched the booby gun reloading anime. But it actually is a very good show, and like it's about characters, all that stuff. Anyway, 10 words or less.
there you go. Yeah, dogs. Obvious. Got to go with the mean pick. Beastars. He's a dog. He's got the dog in him. If you haven't seen Beastars, A, it's good. B, it's CG done right. D, it's amazing. And D, it's got the dog. So
It's got a good OP.
it's got
Very catchy.
2 pretty good sets of OPs.
Yeah, love that first OP.
My 2 are A Sign of Affection. You have two very loyal dog-esque boys there. It is just regular real life. But I just mean like I'm looking at it from the loyal, protective, and then sometimes can be overbearing, possessive. And my other pick was Inuyasha. Because again, he's a dog, sit boy, right? Like Inuyasha, you gotta go with it. And honestly, the show kind of fits. It's got a loyal fan base. Sometimes the show can be a little overbearing with how many episodes there are. Just go watch it though. It's a fun time. It's probably going to be remade soon.
Probably. It's still there's side content. It's too new. Maybe not. And finally, the Year of the Pig, representing generosity and compassion. Pig individuals are kind-hearted and always ready to help those in need. Very easygoing, very honest, but that generosity can sometimes be taken advantage of. This was the show that I picked for Trigun originally because Vash is a lot of those things. I, at the end of the day, would probably agree with Andrew that he probably belongs more as a monkey, but nonetheless, that's where I put it. People know Trigun. What do you got, Andrew?
So this was basically my catch-all category because, and what's more generous, compassionate, and easygoing than just watching an episode of Pokemon or Digimon? There's so much of them, right? And you can be lazy and self-indulgent as you do it as well. Like, just think about all the media these franchises have, and that's why I picked it.
My 2 picks are Call of the Night, because it is a very pretty show. It's very easygoing for season 1. Those who have read the manga have told me that it takes some different directions later on. So season 1, and then Dragon Ball Z, because I felt like it fit. I also think that Goku can kind of be a pig. You also have a literal pig in there, so Dragon Ball Z was my pig pick.
And if you really cared about finding the cat, you'd go watch Fruits Basket, obligatory show about Chinese Zodiac, or Juni Taisen, where they have all the Zodiac characters personified fighting each other.
Neither of which are on this list.
No, because it was too obvious. But Dragon Ball wins because it showed up all the time. Thank you for listening. Please post your best suggestions in the comments or in Discord or wherever you want to. We'd love to read them and see where we are like, oh shoot, I can't believe we forgot such and such show. And you're right, because we clearly didn't put that much effort into it, but I think you guys came out with some winners.
We put in some love and attention.
Yeah,
Also, if you ever want us to do like the astrological zodiac, let us know.
Yeah, if you thought this was fun. And we'll definitely do it again. So with that, let us take a quick break. But first, we're going to leave you with a trivia question.
Me, right?
Yes.
What is the bounty on Sakamoto in Sakamoto's days? Well, what is the bounty on Sakamoto in Sakamoto days?
You'll find out in a bit. See you there.
Hey, all you anime crack addicts out there, it's me, Tsugi, and it's time to do the anime news. Getting us started off, we have a business story from Production IG, who is set to merge with Signal.md, strengthening the group's profitability. So, IG Port, the parent company of the animation studio Production IG, and Signal MD have announced the merger of these two subsidiaries. The move is going to be approved by their board of directors, which I think has already happened, and it's going to be a move to position Production IG as the surviving entity while Signal.md dissolves. The merger is going to optimize resource allocation, enhance profitability across the entire group of studios. So it doesn't really mean Signal.md won't literally exist in terms of the people that work for it, but it will be absorbed and will no longer be a functioning entity. Rationale comes at a time of significant growth for IG Port. Its financial report for the second quarter of the fiscal year, May 2025, concluded that they made about $49 million, a 47% year-over-year increase. So pretty good stuff here for the studio, moving and shaking, trying to survive in the very fragmented and volatile anime industry. Next up, the manga Undead Unluck is ending its serialization. So for those of you that were a big fan of this, you did get a lot of content, as there are 239 and I guess another final chapter marked in this manga's 5-year run ending. So 240 roughly chapters of a manga is quite a lot. The anime was produced into a series by David Production back in the fall of 2023. We covered it on the podcast, and you can watch it. It's online. Viz Media and Suecia simul-publish the manga in English on its Manga Plus app and website, so you can check it out on there. But overall, just so you know, the manga Undead Unluck is ending its serialization. And speaking of things ending, the manga Komi Can't Communicate is also concluding its serialization. The final volume will conclude the insanely high 500th chapter of this property. So this was coming out of the 9th issue of Weekly Shonen Sunday, which recently came out. It looks like Komi Can't Communicate is wrapping up. It was originally done into a one-shot Weekly Shonen Sunday in September of 2015, which is where it all began for this property. And of course, there have been 2 seasons of anime that came out in the spring of 2022 and the fall of 2021 by Studio OLM. Lots of content for this property, and with 500 chapters, can definitely see there being more of the anime coming out at some point. Next up, and lastly, the web manga Kori no Jouheiki is getting made into a TV anime, subtitled as The Ramparts of Ice. So, synopsis is that inept at dealing with people, Koyuki maintains a wall between herself and others. She spends her time in high school away from other people all alone, until she encounters Minato, who keeps closing the distance between them for some reason. In this story of these somewhat complicated people, they're in their tantalizing, bumbling youth, blah, blah, blah. Just a cute little, rom-com, it looks like. But this is going to be coming out. Kori no Jouheiki placed 15th in the male readers category at the Kono Manga ga Sugoi 2024 rankings, which is a ranking that they do every year to go through people's favorite manga and webcomics. So if you're a fan of that, look out, because it looks like it's going to be getting made into a TV anime sometime soon, I have to assume. This was Mitsugi, and this was your anime news break, and now it's time to get back to the podcast.
My name is Tony Oliver, voice of Arsene Lupin III from Lupin III, the TV series, and I am an anime addict.
Welcome back to the podcast following that excellent news break that Mitsugi put together, which is a huge pain in the butt for me to do, so I really appreciate him doing it. So everyone say thank you, Mitsugi, out loud, wherever you're at right now. No context. I don't care if people are around. Thank you, Mitsugi. See, that wasn't so hard.
Thank you, Mitz.
And I'll give you the answer that you were waiting so patiently for. What is the bounty on Sakamoto in Sakamoto Days? 1 billion yen, I'm assuming. I don't know.
Yes, yen.
You never know. It could have been like Jawbreakers or whatever he eats. Anyway, we have a mailbag, so we're going to do mailbags.
It's time for an almighty anime mailbag. Anime. Anime. Anime.
Mailbag.
Emery, who sent us such a refined, elegant mailbag?
Yeah, this mailbag is from Neighborhood Bub. Hey guys, just started listening 5 to 6 months ago and love the podcast. Just was wondering what the best / your favorite traumatic event that causes a character's personality to take a drastic change, such as Kantaki's torture, Aaron's mother being eaten in front of him, or Subaru being stuck in a loop of death, was. Thanks. And,
wow. What's your favorite trauma? That's a tough one.
Trauma that evolved and changed the characters forever.
Yeah, that's You wanna take it away?
Yeah,
I'll
kick us off. No, you're fine. For me, one of the ones that came to mind was Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. There's an arc in it known as the Shibuya arc. Fans of the show know that one of our main characters goes through quite a soul-crushing moment, and it leads to some very nice character growth and development. And for readers like me of the manga, this does play out very nicely with how the manga continues and wraps up. So continuing to look for that. Another excellent, I think, example of traumatic events unfolding and causing character changes. Again, Land of the Lustrous. I have to mention it again because I want more people to go and watch it.
God, it's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
Season 2 win. Orange, please. I know you're about to finish up Beastars. Give me the conclusion to Land of the Lustrous. I've read the manga. I know where it goes. And that's a phenomenal answer. That's just such a good answer because it's just
right?
nonstop trauma.
Non-stop trauma and a character that quite literally transforms with
eyes. So good.
What am I talking about? Go watch it. Find out.
Yeah, you'll have to learn. For myself, I picked 3 shows that have these big traumatic events that happen on different scales of do I think it made the character better, neutral, or decidedly worse in like emotional damage kind of thing. So, Vinland Saga. Our boy goes through some rough times. I think he comes out pretty good. He comes out a better man, you could say, in some regards. I'm not going to spoil exactly how, but if you know, you know. Probably a neutral state, which is probably unfair because his life has been almost constant trauma, so he's kind of just hardened a shell around it and doesn't really react to more trauma. Berserk, you could point to multiple instances, kind of like Land of the Lustrous, but not quite the same. And finally, I'm going to go with, we brought it up earlier in the show, but Hunter x Hunter. Our sweet, innocent babby boy, he got real angry, and that made me real sad. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Andrew, what do you got for us?
Basically, I have most deaths in Gundam have some pretty crazy changes on the characters, and it usually tends to happen early on. Usually somebody close to the main character is killed in a very unceremonious or crazy way that usually affects them entirely. Almost as a counter to this question, I'm also going to pick a death in Gundam that is almost has no effect on the character, but may have an effect on the audience. Is in Iron-Blooded Orphans, one of the main characters kills this like general dude, maybe not general dude, but this other like main like army fighter guy, and at the end of it he comes out unchanged by this whole process, but you kind of go, oh, this ain't your grandpappy's Gundam anymore. It's more like your cool uncle's Gundam. So yeah, any death in Gundam, I feel like a lot of the deaths in Gundam change characters, especially of a loved one or a family member.
Yeah.
And they're usually pretty motivating.
Thank you.
I think
for
these
those.
were, I think these were good picks. If you would like to submit your own mailbag, AAAPodcast.com. Go to that mailbag button. Send, please.
Yeah.
So Raggedy doesn't keep sending in more somehow,
Don't want to
even though
read
he's a
any
host.
more Raggedy mailbags. I don't. I'm sick of them. They're good, but I don't want them anymore. I want your listener mailbags. So, but I also want to get into impressions. So let's do it.
Today, we're going to be doing impressions.
Impression time, believe it!
As always, we are on our third week of 4 weeks of impressions. We watch the first couple episodes, give or take 3, of each of the new shows coming out, and we say, hey, this is a good show. We want to review it. And then we pass it, or we lock it, or whatever word you want to say, hey, when this show finishes, we on the podcast will do a review of the show. Awesome. We're going to pass 6 shows in total. So far, we've passed Solo Leveling Season 2, Bang Dream of Mujika, Zenshu, and Apothecary Diaries Season 2. So we have 2 passes to go across this week and next. After that, as with everything else on this podcast, you go to AAAPodcast.com. When we're done, you'll see a nice big old button that says, vote for the winter 2025 shows. And everyone can vote on all the remaining shows, and the top 3 that you listeners pick will make the reviews as well. So if we fail a show you really like, or don't even talk about one, drum up some interest on the Discord, get some people behind your cause, and go vote and see if you can make it happen. So we're going to talk about 5 shows today. The first, Lady Anne-Marie, will be Toilet Bound Hanako-kun Season 2.
That is right. Yep, this was done by Studio Lurchi. Let's see if I'm saying that right. We'll find out. I'm sure somebody will correct me. You can watch this on Crunchyroll. And for as quick of a synopsis as I can provide, because this is Season 2, you're going to follow Nene, Hanako, and Ko as they dive deeper into the mysteries of their academy's supernatural world. This season, they're primarily focusing on the 3 clock keepers and attempting to uncover a potential traitor amongst the 7 wonders. This was a show that I picked for all of us to watch because I adored Season 1. This is my style of show. I love the elements of it, the supernatural pieces. I like the drawing style. And I still do really enjoy this show. I'm still in it for Season 2. I feel like it took a while to come out. But yeah.
Yeah, there was like that side short form comedy thing. It was like After School Hanako-kun, which is nice, but it's not the same type of show. It's not the same format and element and full production quality going to it. I love the look of this show. It is so freaking gorgeous. You could take any screenshot of this show and just with all the watercolor, stained glass, painterly aesthetic, it just looks amazing. And I wish I enjoyed the rest of the show as much so I could just exist in this world. It looks so good. I love the design of it, and I have a hard time like divorcing how much I love visually the show from how kind of annoying I find the rest of it. The characters are just, they grate on me, I think, more than they are supposed to, and that was the big downfall I had with Season 1, and seems to be the case with Season 2. I would say if you liked Season 1, it seems to be firing on all the same cylinders. I like the mystery aspects more so far, so I think if you remember, like, oh, I remember watching season 1. Should I go back and check out season 2? Yes, absolutely. For sure. For someone like myself, I'm still seeing a lot of the same itches and scratches that I felt weren't getting taken care of in season 1. So I think it's good. I don't love it. I don't know why it annoys me so much. Emery, why does it annoy me?
It's just because of our like Venn diagram. There can only be like one show, I swear, a season that
That's
both you and I
fair.
can agree on. And this is not one of them. But I think it's
That's a
because
better Venn diagram than me and him.
Yeah.
It's maybe
it-
once a year.
Yeah.
once a year you guys
They're literally, between Andrew and myself, it's tangent. They're just kissing at one
Like-
contact point, and that's all we can agree on.
amazing.
I don't know. I like Nene.
yeah, no,
I think it's probably Hanako and like all the surrounding cast. It's not like they're even bullying her. It's just a weird power dynamic. I don't know.
I can see that, and some of the perverseness sometimes, like perverse humor that sometimes they throw in on a show where it's clearly children. However, I just feel like man, if you don't like the characters, like you're out, because that is a lot of what's driving the show is the characters and the mystery and how they each interact with the supernatural wonders or the rumors and how they're manipulating them and either making them better or worse or just leaving it alone. But yeah, it's unfortunate that you don't like it, but you're absolutely right. If you did not like the plot or the characters of season 1, you're not going to like it of season 2. If you're like me and you loved the look, characters, feel, the vibes, you're going to love, I think, season 2.
I'm going to propose that we fail the show because I don't like it. But if you have never watched any of the show, I highly encourage you to check out at least a bit of season 1 and just see the visuals that I'm talking about, because it is so unique in a very samey industry at times, and you might fall in love with it the same way Emery did. So I'm gonna vote fail. Emery, for your conscience, you can say pass.
I would say pass, even though I know it's probably getting failed.
And Andrew, I don't think you watched any of this, so you can say fail
I
just
did
to
not.
just to put the kibosh on it.
It's okay, Emery. I'm also going to feel the same disappointment as you shortly.
Well, with disappointment on the palette today, we'll play the first drop. Or not. Oh, there we go. I'm sorry. I don't think enough people have been watching season 2. And it's more of the same. We already reviewed this on episode, I don't know how many, whatever ago, but do it. Watch it for Emery.
Watch it.
Next
or
up,
watch season 2 and then go listen to that episode.
Yeah,
whatever that episode title is.
I don't think we were very positive on it. Anyway, next up, I left my A-rank party to help my former students reach the dungeon depths. This is done by Bandai Namco Pictures. They've done Wistoria, Birdie Wing, and Raven of the Inner Palace. You can watch it on Crunchyroll. And we have this character named Yuk, who is a member of a popular A-rank party. He's like a jack of all trades, supply man, healer, buffing dude. He helps the team out on a variety of things. They really don't appreciate him. They kind of talk bad about him. He's like, I'm sick of your guys' crud. I'm gonna go do my own thing. You guys don't appreciate how good you got. You don't deserve a girl like me, kind of thing. And he goes out and he finds a party of people that used to be his students, and he's like, hey, it's way more relaxing being with a novice party. Let me help you out, go through these dungeons. And that's what he does. And that could have been summarized in a title, perhaps literally the one it was given. So what were your guys' initial expectations, thoughts? Do we like this show?
Oh, yeah, I guess I can go. So, no, I do not apply my misogyny test to this one because it is not an isekai.
They're already in the
isekai.
Fantasy game world, so they
it is
it's not
there. First of all, it's a fantasy world. It's not a game.
Okay.
It plays like a game world, but it's not.
I say this because I didn't hate this show.
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly, well, one, like I said, it's not an isekai. And if it was an isekai, then it would fail on all accounts. But it also feels like it's not doing a lot of the same things that isekais tend to do with this type of character. He's not overly perverted, and in the absence of that, the women themselves aren't overly perverted as well. Like, they're not really throwing themselves at him. It's all more subtle, it feels like, in the grand scheme of things. Like, they all obviously are going to have a crush on him. So I'm just waiting for it to drop the ball on that. But for the first couple of episodes, it's pretty much more focused on, like, the world and how it exists. And it's more about how he has actually a legitimate complaint with his former group and how they're just assholes and how he does a lot of the work. And I think you can sort of resonate with that in a lot of ways. If you a lot of people have been in that kind of situation before where you're just doing a lot of the work and people aren't appreciating you. So it makes sense that when he goes off on his own, there's like, you'll regret this. And I was a bit worried that they wouldn't, but I mean, and obviously they don't because they're conceited, but it's kind of interesting to see that literally they're that dense that a couple of episodes in, people are calling them out for their bullshit. It's like, or they're just even saying, it's like, hey guys, I don't get it. What's wrong with all these freaking new people? None of them can stay long enough. They're always so underprepared. It's their fault we suck so much. Like, I just don't understand why they suck so much and making us suck so much more. And it's just kind of like the irony behind all of that. And even then, I don't know. I just didn't hate the show, which is surprising for me.
Surprisingly,
it's
not
isekai,
hating
so
a
that
show is kind of the theme for this season. With a lot of shows that I'm like, oh, this looks cruddy. This is going to be awful. And you watch it and you're like, it's not great, but like it's fine. And as Andrew mentioned, it definitely has that, you know, vicarious enjoyment of the guy who quits the manipulative, bad, evil team, and then the eventual just desserts of that team getting their teeth kicked in when they realize, oh no, he actually was right all along. That we'll hopefully get to. I definitely misread this title and thought like it was an isekai where like a teacher is helping out literal former students in a game, and I was not expecting that former students to be all girls of different fetish types to like be the eventual harem type thing. But like you said, it's really not leaning into that at this point, and it's really just going through these like nice little like rating practices of like, okay, who takes the front, how do we schedule our attacks? And you're like, yeah, this is a nice little look into if this was how the real world worked, how people might go about going through these dungeons. So it was surprisingly fun. Definitely not passable, but
agreed.
Decent. Emery, what'd you think?
Emery made a whoopsies and forgot to watch this one.
Oh, she did it out of spite. Oh, you're not watching Toilet Bound?
And like, oh, I thought I got all of the shows. I missed this one. So
Did you watch Guild Receptionist instead? Did you reverse me where you thought Guild Receptionist was supposed to be on the list and you watched that instead?
No, I think I watched like Ubel Blanc and a few of the other ones that are Russian. So yeah, my mistake. I am happy to hear that this one is at least pleasant and palatable, because title alone, I would have gone in with pretty negative thoughts on it.
I your reaction to my statement now makes sense at the beginning, where you're like, oh, because you didn't watch it, because I feel like you would have you'd be like, I get it. Yeah, no, we're not passing this. It's fine. I'm probably gonna keep watching it until it gets like egregiously bad, but like, yeah, no, fine, failing.
Yeah, doesn't look great, doesn't sound great. It's by the numbers, but it's just different enough to, if you really like these isekai dungeon rating type shows, might be worth checking out if it's your kind of thing.
Boo! 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 Boo!
And with that, let's move on to the big one, I'll call it, because I feel like it had so much hype this season. Sakamoto Days. It's by Studio TMS Entertainment. I believe they also did Way of the House Husband because a lot of people were very concerned about that, and the stylings there. You can watch this on Netflix. I did not write the synopsis. The document that where we keep our notes was commandeered by Raggedy Doctor, and so he wrote Fat John Wick. So I added a little bit of a caveat. Fat John Wick, only his family is alive this time and no one killed his dog. Or honestly, it's a little giving me a little bit of that modern day like Rurouni Kenshin vibes a little bit. So yeah, I went in with really high hopes for this. I went in thinking this is going to be the anime that I'm going to fall in love with. I'm one of the few people that likes Way of the House Husband. I like these types of shows, like One Punch Man is another example sort of subverting your expectation and just having comedic bits in there. And you can tell from my tone, this one is not hitting for me. I cannot figure out why, other than I am just not drawn to the main character. I am drawn usually to the main character and find it enjoyable, but I don't know what his personality is. I don't know what it is. So that's not helping me whatsoever. And that's pretty disappointing. I think the action is fine. It's nothing to write home about, but I'm still going to keep watching it. I'm still waiting for the other shoe to drop, but maybe it's just I had too high of expectations for this show. So I am curious, and either of you change my mind on this?
Why don't I like the characters? I was asking you that earlier.
Yeah.
With Hanako-kun.
Yeah, why don't I like...
I don't think it can change your mind. Honestly, like, I went in essentially expecting Fat John Wick, and I got Fat John Wick. Like, my suspension of disbelief kind of just, like, when he's breaking weapons with spoons is a little ridiculous, but it's also anime. And also in this world, there's, like, people that can read... There's basically magic in this world. So... honestly, I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed the show. Like, I wouldn't say it's like this amazing, crazy show, but it's been a lot of fun to watch, and definitely did not fall into the Way of the House Husband animation. This is actually some pretty decent animation we're getting out of the show, and I think the problem with the show, and maybe why, is that there's a lot of suspension of disbelief you have to do with this show for the central conceit to work. And if you can't get behind it, then yeah. But like for me, I'm like, okay, well, first of all, given the amount of how he moves, he should not be this fat. And he's not even like that fat, to be fair. He's just like Japanese fat, like in a lot of ways. So like he doesn't even look like he's, and he's not out of shape. And so the way he moves around, he shouldn't be this fat. But also, the other thing is, once magic is basically introduced into this world, right, with psychic powers and people who can turn into other people, I kind of go, I'm like, well, I can buy into the fact that he is this capable, and assassins who yell out their attack names, that's whatnot. Anyway, yeah, I did not hate the show. I actually enjoyed it a lot. Not as much as another show on this list, but definitely it was better than I thought it was going to be.
So Sakamoto Days is that meme where you're like, Mom, I want McDonald's. And it's like, oh, we have McDonald's at home. But in this case, you're like, Mom, I want McDonald's. And she's like, okay. And you go to McDonald's. And you get the McDonald's. And you eat the McDonald's. And you're like, that wasn't as good as I thought it would be in my head. It was definitely better in concept than it was. So I, like Emery, came in with pretty high expectations. I have some of the manga. I've read a fair bit of it. The manga is very good because it is some meticulously and really well done action paneling. That is the bread and butter of what makes it so compelling, is how the mangaka presents all the action scenes throughout it. And that is not really captured that well, from the animation to the framing to just it being a different medium. And it doesn't look that great. It doesn't feel that great. Emotionally, these beats, like Emery said, just don't land for me. It's not really funny. It's not really heart-wrenching. It's kind of plain in a lot of ways. I don't really like the main character's... I like his vibe. I don't like his voice. It sounds like it's kind of echoey, and it's supposed to be like, is he speaking in his head and it's just his thoughts? Is he actually saying thoughts? It sounds like he's recorded in a different location that doesn't match. And the show has some great strengths, but it's always undercut and whiplashing me between good and bad moments. Take, for example, episode 2. We get this girl who shows up with this whole meat bun incident. And she has these like little designs, patterns on her jacket and shirt. And when they introduce her with like a name tag, like non-diegetically on the screen, they use that design as the framing for the name tag. That's brilliant. That's really smart. That's good design. But they have this name tag saying she's a mystery girl and then they give you her name. So like she's not a mystery girl. You just revealed to everyone what her name was. There's good moments of some of the gags of they buy these meat buns from a shop and they get very obviously smashed to smithereens. And Shin, the psychic character killer in the show, like goes to look at them to see if they're still salvageable. And we know they're not. And a lesser anime would show him opening the bag and do a zany sound effect as they show all these smashed buns and be like, whoa, they're all ruined. But in this show, they showed restraint and he just like opens it, looks in, and we just see him like dejectedly like close it. Like, that's well done. But there's moments right afterwards that just completely miss the mark and go with these radical... It just seems like it's pushing so hard to get to the action, get to the fight scenes. And they're bypassing all the characterization, all the charm, all the dialogue that makes it compelling. And then they get to the animation and it falls way flatter than the manga and flat in general. So I really wanted to like the show, and maybe that hopes got me too high, but I don't really care. Like, I think this will come back if we fail it because the listeners like it. It's popular. It seems to be well loved. The shows on our super secret host spreadsheet are all over the place, from stuff near the 5s, from stuff down to the 2s. That's me, by the way. The spoiler.
If it's the lowest score, it's usually Mason.
Yeah. I mean, I barely gave anything more than a
fair.
3. And this one was just... It would be mid on another season, but coming in with hype, it's less than mid in my book. But what do you guys think? What should we do with Sakamoto Days?
If we're not passing it, then I know what we're passing this episode.
We don't need to pass anything.
We are definitely passing something this episode. I've seen next week's episode. We are definitely passing something this episode. Is all I'm saying.
The question is, independent of every other show that we're going to talk about today and what other people think and our co-hosts that might like the show more than us but aren't on this episode, would you personally want to pass or fail this show? We're making it a vote.
Oh, I'll fail it. I have no problem failing it. If the listeners want us to watch it, I'll watch it. Don't get me wrong. There are other shows I'd rather talk about on the podcast, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm failing it, and bring it back around, listeners, so that maybe I can find some enjoyment. But this one didn't do it for me. It didn't, and so
anarchy. We're gonna fail Sakamoto Days. Now I know what you're saying, listener. This is outrageous. This is crazy. I love this show. You're probably right. It might be better on a second pass once I got my expectations tempered. But for now, you have to go to AAAPodcast.com and vote for it to be back in. I'm sure it'll make it. I know. Don't cry. But you got to do the work. You got to earn it. Prove to us with like 90% of people voting for it. Sakamoto Days is going to fail.
That is one big pile of shit.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I know. And we're going to pass something else this episode. You're going to be like, you failed Sakamoto Days for that? Yeah. And I'll do it again. Try me.
Honestly, I think we might all be in agreement what we're actually going to be passing this episode, if I'm not crazy. And it's
find out.
Not the show I'm talking about next, because as much as I love it, I'm very realistic about it. All I'm just saying is, instead of passing a bunch of shows and season 2s that were all kind of tepidly like, it's more of the same thing. We could have been passing what this great show is, and it's called The Red Ranger Becomes an Adventurer in Another World. And I am getting a phone call, which is really annoying right now. So instead, we should talk about flowers and Asura. So, I'll have a whole bit for you when I get back.
Okay. Okay, we're
Aha.
he said he might have to do a quick thing.
Expectations.
Yeah, subversions all the way. So, Flower and Asura is actually what we're going to talk about right now until he gets back, which is done by Studio Bind. You know them for Jobless Reincarnation, and maybe you know them for Onimai. Maybe not, I don't know. You can watch it on High Dive, and the synopsis takes place in like an island sort of town lady where this girl named Hana likes reciting literature. She watches some like NHK competition of poetry reading, and she's like, dang, that's really cool. I want to do that. So she joins the high school broadcasting club to recite literature. And they go on to recite literature and do all sorts of broadcasting club activities. And it's a little anime-y at the beginning, I would say. It's a very pretty good looking show. I think Studio Bind does a mostly good job. It's not on the same level as Onimai or early Jobless Reincarnation with the animation quality, but it's still quite strong. It's definitely trying to tap into that same Kyoto animation, overwhelming prettiness and big moments sort of thing, but it looks good. Honestly, I was so-so with episode 1, where we kind of get the club president trying to coerce her, Hana being kind of shy and reluctant to do this and inconvenience others, but she eventually joins the club. Starting with episode 2, though, really introducing the rest of the members of the club, it was markedly stronger in my book. I liked the cast, I liked their interplay, I liked the different reasons that people are coming into broadcasting for, and I liked the concept of, you know, they are making their introduction to a club by having to present a 1-minute piece about another club member. And I think that's an engaging way of introducing their strengths, their weaknesses, how the club works, personalities without a very dry cut way. It just felt very smart and engaging to me, and I really enjoyed episode 2, so I was vibing with it. Emery, what did you think?
Yeah, I think this one needs to take time to grow on me. I think the art is very nice. The only critique I have actually of the art style, which I'd have to go and check if the studio does it, is there's a certain shine to the hair where it almost highlights it in either a white or a lighter color. It's not the halo effect you see in, say, like My Happy Marriage.
Yeah.
But it's around all of the characters. It's such a weird knit, but it's one of those things where, you know, you see like a piece of lettuce in somebody's teeth and you just can't stop seeing it, unfortunately. That said, I like the characters. I do think bringing in the whole club is a much, much better element than the main 2 characters.
Yeah.
We're polar opposites. I think this is a boring club, but this happens sometimes with anime with me where I'm like, this seems like it's going to be a really boring club, and then I get into it and I get interested in it. So I'll likely keep watching to see where this is going. The hardest part for me is this is on High Dive, which is not necessarily in itself a bad server place to be. It's just frustrating when I do most of my watching between Crunchyroll, Hulu, Netflix. I'm like, oh God, I have to go to another one. But that's just me. Andrew, are you back in time?
Yes, I'm.
Yes. Yeah, give us some feedback here. Flower and
So I figure that this show is a more interesting discussion than it's just a more interesting discussion that we could have overall, because it's about a club. Usually the shows about, like you said, random clubs tend to be more interesting because the characters in the show have to be more interesting than the dry subject matter, right? So I thought it was kind of nice in the first episode where the main character is kind of the shy girl who can essentially, without realizing, turn on her speaking voice, and every time somebody hears it, there's like this whole change of scenery, like they're being transported to another world, which is like this, I don't even know you guys mentioned it, but it's like great, which is representative of what books can really do, right? Take you to other worlds. And I think that was really interesting, and I like how they visually show it off. The main character is not usually my favorite character type. She can be kind of annoying, but I think that she makes for an interesting foil to a lot of the other characters that exist as well. I like the senpai characters. There's obviously the glasses girl, who's obviously the one who's really good at all the paperwork. There's the shy guy
Deep voice
who
guy.
is actually who actually is very dynamic. As you can see in like the few moments he gets. Like, I thought we weren't gonna. His whole gag is that he sits in a corner, and that, you know, maybe 8 or so episodes down the line, he finally has like this big emotional blow up. No, we get that in the same episode we meet him in, which is like pretty great. I've only seen 2 episodes, by the way. And I got a really good impression from the show. I feel like it's interesting what it says on the nature of what you're good at versus what you want to do. I think could be like, is going to be like a fun thematic throughout the show as well. So yeah, I'm definitely want to talk more about the show, and I'm definitely more curious about where the show has to go from here. It's obviously going to get kind of boring at points because Slice of Life has a hard time keeping energy up for as long as it's going. But I feel like what the Slice of Life, like, you know, climax is always getting those like interesting character moments, heartwarming moments, and story, and it never actually has to go into being depressive for it to actually be good. So I'm curious to see how this show does it, and that's why I would personally pass it.
Yeah, it's not high octane. It's not always an exciting time. Like, at the end of the day, it is a show about a character who reads a book and then reads that book out loud. So it's not going to wow you. But that said, if this does sound like it might be worth it, I mean, I'm definitely going to vote that we pass it, even though it might not be the most exciting thing around. If you do check it out, I would recommend at least giving it till episode 2, where you can see more of the interplay of the other characters and not so much the lackluster back and forth between the two. So yeah, I'll vote that we pass Flower and Asura. It was pretty decent.
If we're lucky, it'll be another Rakugo Shinju. Obviously not, but if we're lucky, we'll even get like, if we can even get half of that, it would make the show worth it, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And Lady Emery, you do get to say what if you're going to pass or fail it, for the record, technically.
I was originally going to fail it because I wanted more to it, but I think we'll pass it. We'll pass it, of course.
Man, this is not your day, but unfortunately, it is.
Movie. Yeah.
So, wow. Flower and Asura gets the pass, gets the coveted 5th spot. We have one more spot to pass. Is it going to be the last show that we talk about today that we were going to talk about earlier?
Spoiler alert, obviously not, because I already spoiled that before I got the phone call. But the Red Ranger becomes an adventure in another world. In my world, I'm passing this 100%. Obviously, I don't think we will in the grand scheme of things, and that's fine. But you know what? This show is good. This show is very enjoyable. Does it do anything new and innovative in the isekai genre? Yes, it puts in a Sentai character in there from Tokusatsu. Does it do anything else that's innovative in the isekai genre? Yes, it puts a giant robot in there as well. Does it do a third thing that's innovative in the isekai genre? Subversion. No, it doesn't. It's just like every other isekai.
Listen, you just need one of us to be on board. And I would say to an even greater extent that the A-Rank party show was not as terrible as you thought. I very much thought, oh, Red Ranger isekai. This is going to be so dumb. Like, I was trying everything in my power to not have to watch any of the show, because why? I don't like Sentai shows or isekai. Why would I bother with it? It was actually pretty funny. It was pretty silly at times, and I thought it was amusing. I don't know how...
What world am I living in? You both are agreeing.
In the real world of the anime, you need 5 Power Rangers. I'm calling them Power Rangers. They're not Power Rangers. They're Band-Aid Rangers or whatever. You need 5 of them to form like the Megazord. But when he goes to the isekai, he can still form the big monster of 5 different parts just by himself. I don't know why he can do it, but it's funny because he'll like transform in a cave and be like, oh shoot, I'm in a cave. I can't move it. Like, that's amusing. He transforms into his power and there's a big Sentai explosion behind him. Why is there an explosion? Normally you just say, cuz. But you have characters in this world being like, what's with all the fire? Why is it doing that? Watch out when you transform. There's people behind you. Like, yeah, it's about the power of friendship, like a Sentai show, but it's not quite. And it has a good little. Honestly, Emery, spoilers. The only reason I like the show is because the admittedly scantily clad big hat witch lady does a shaft head tilt at the end of episode 2. And I'm like, oh, they were taking notes out of my playbook, and that was pretty awesome. No, I'm gonna fail this show. It's not that good, but it was surprisingly not horrendous. And I would recommend, if you want a silly little comedy that knows what it is and does it with a wink and a nod, check out Red Ranger. I'm gonna fail it, don't worry, but it's not bad.
Yeah, this is not my show. I do not. Some of the comedic bits are funny, like the transformation in the cave was very funny, and I do like when she is commenting on like the explosion, the band-aid, everything, or talking about marriage and divorce and bonds. That stuff, it did make me laugh. But like I can't get over all of the boob humor that is in this show. It is so distracting from me enjoying the pure comedy. It's not hitting for me. This show did not do anything for me, but I'm also not an isekai person, and
You're better than that, I know.
yeah, I sure am.
It passes the isekai misogyny test, for one.
Even with the boobs.
Well, the whole isekai misogyny test is about the poster. The poster is the Red Ranger, and there's at least another dude on there. There's a giant robot on there, right? So it definitely passes that. Also, I do like the extra 2 characters they do bring in episode 3 as well. But honestly, I was sold on the show basically just from the title alone, and I was always going to be sold on the show. And the show had like a lot to do to make me not want to like this show. Not love this show, and it's done everything to make me love this show and then some. It didn't even have to work that hard at it, and the show is obviously by people who enjoy tokusatsu. They get it. They get how ridiculous, like they're in on the joke. They know this is not supposed to be serious. They get how ridiculous tokusatsu can be. Like the meta narrative on it is like, I don't understand how these powers work. They have stat sheets, and his stat sheet is basically a character card that you would get at like one of these kids. Anyway, long story short is, I already have the episode where we review this all planned out already, from the news to the main topic to the review, and you guys will never get this unless you vote for it. Vote for it if you want that.
We all have to do like the introductions, like Black Ranger coming in, Mace, and then you like do the transformation sequence or whatever. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Look, no, don't give them any spoilers. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
If they want that, if they want that good episode, they got to vote for it, because I have to pass this.
Okay, well, we got one pass,
but you both fail it.
We got 2 fails. So unfortunately, for shame, Red Ranger will not pass. But check it out if you are definitely into Sentai and tangentially somewhat into isekais.
Shame.
No, watch it if you're into Sentai. Don't watch it if you're just into isekai.
Shame. Shame. Shame.
And with that, Flower and Asura have joined the ranks of Solo Leveling Season 2, Bang Dream, Zenshu, and Apothecary Diaries as our Winter 2025 guaranteed reviews on the AAA podcast. But after next week, you can vote in all the shows, Red Ranger, that you want us to review and see if they make the cut. And that is the end of our episode today. We made it. It was a bit of a doozy, but hopefully you learned something new, got some new recommendations. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Emery, for some phenomenal work along the way and covering my butt for being a bit of a spaz. Follow us, AAAPodcast.com. Vote in the Oscars. Don't forget. I know you forgot. I bet you forgot, you little... Don't do that, though. Go vote right now, and you won't forget, and you'll feel better about your life. And don't forget to vote in a week. Next week, obviously, final week of impressions and a bunch of other anime stuff. I think Mitsugi will be back talking about the Japan trip, most likely. So if you want to hear all the deets, stay tuned for that. And with that, we will go to review it. No, not review. We'll go do an after party. So stick around for that if you are a subscriber. But if not, I hope you have a phenomenal week. I hope you have a phenomenal life. And go watch some more anime Any closing thoughts?
No, I think you nailed it. Good job.
We did the
We
thing.
forged some very awesome bonds today, even with the trials and tribulations of life.
Indeed. And with
Power
that,
friendship.
we'll see you in the next one. Bye.